We often view an apocalyptic sky as an environmental nuisance, a hazy stretch of days that ruins weekend plans, makes your eyes water, and irritates your lungs until the wind shifts. But a massive new study published in the European Heart Journal tracked 25 million older adults across the United States over a decade. The data reveals that breathing in this haze triggers a serious long-term threat to the human brain. Researchers found that long-term exposure to wildfire smoke contributes to over 17,000 extra strokes in the American elderly every single year. To understand how a fire hundreds of miles away can trigger a blood clot in the brain, we need to examine the specific chemical makeup of this smoke, the way it interacts with our blood vessels, and the daily habits that can mitigate the damage. This requires a shift in how we view fire season. We are looking at a chronic health risk factor that requires proactive, year-round management. The study's findings indicate that for those over 65, ignoring this environmental hazard poses a danger to brain health comparable to leaving high blood pressure untreated. The threat isn't limited to the people living right on the edge of the burn scar. Smoke originates in remote forests but travels across entire regions, blanketing suburbs and rural towns that might never see a single flame. While we often associate fire with the West, the study found the highest average concentrations of smoke particulate in both the western and southeastern United States. Most of us are already familiar with the cardiovascular dangers of urban smog, the way tailpipe emissions and industrial exhaust slowly stiffen and damage arteries over time. This chart compares the two types of pollution. A 1 microgram increase in regular urban pollution raises stroke risk by 0.7%. But that same increase in wildfire smoke raises the risk by 1.3%. The risk from smoke is nearly double. This increased toxicity comes from the chemical composition. Wildfire smoke contains a higher proportion of organic carbon and polar organic compounds, molecules that are highly reactive once they enter the body. Inhaling the vaporized remains of vegetation and organic matter delivers a uniquely aggressive chemical payload compared to the emissions found in a typical city center. Unlike the steady, predictable levels of urban smog, wildfire smoke arrives in massive, erratic spikes. These events deliver intense concentrations of pollutants that shock the body systems. During these spikes, reactive polar compounds bypass your lung defenses and enter the bloodstream. They trigger immediate oxidative stress and systemic inflammation along the vessel walls. This inflammation leads to thrombotic activation, a process where the blood begins to clot. If one of these clots blocks the flow of oxygen to the brain, the result is a stroke. This biological reaction often happens under extreme conditions. The fear of a disaster and the stress of evacuation add a secondary cardiovascular burden to a system already struggling with toxic exposure. In this context, a stroke is the conclusion of a cascading physiological shock paired with intense psychological stress. The study found no safe threshold for this exposure. Even moderate recurring contact with smoke particulate increases long-term stroke risk. Susceptibility is highest among older adults and Medicaid-eligible individuals, who may have more difficulty accessing specialized air filtration or consistent medical care. Your first defense is checking the Air Quality Index, or AQI, as part of your daily morning routine. Treat this metric with the same importance as the temperature or a rain forecast. During smoke events, emphasize indoor air quality. Use HEPA filtration systems or seek out community clean air shelters to lower your cumulative exposure to these particles. When levels are high, strictly limit your physical exertion outdoors. High-intensity activity only pulls these reactive compounds deeper into your lungs. It is also critical to maintain medical continuity. Do not let a smoke event prevent you from accessing your routine prescriptions or cardiovascular checkups. Wildfire smoke is a toxic trigger that builds up over years. However, by monitoring the air, filtering your environment, and adjusting your habits, you can break the chain of risk. While we cannot control the changing climate, treating wildfire smoke as a vital sign puts the power to protect your brain back in your hands.